name's Mike Belcher. I'm with HP. Have you heard of us before? Yeah. Anybody know what that picture, that image is there?
Shed.
It is a shed.
That's where HP started.
It is. So that's in Palo Alto, just outside of Stanford, where actually there's a National Historic Monument plaque on the front of that says, "Here is the birthplace of Silicon Valley." 1939, and it is absolutely overwhelmingly underwhelming when you go see it. There is some equipment still there. We actually had to go find some of the first pieces of equipment that our founders designed in the late 30s on eBay. And most of the cases, folks had no idea what they were as we went out and bought them off of eBay to go outfit back in the shed, right? But we've been about innovation for forever. I'm lucky enough to get a chance to work in education, which has been my field of study for forever in technology, and really how to hopefully do better things for our education with technology. And so at HP, really give us that gravity to kind of set strategy for how we go into education with what sort of technologies. And this discussion we're going to have today, I'll talk about a lot of technologies that we have, but please don't take this as a pitch or that I'm promoting this. It's about how do we start to think about what these new technologies mean. Because I think we're at this stage where as the cost of these technologies go down, how quickly things are changing, the economic impact that we're going to see out of these new technologies are going to drive us to do some really creative things. And your students are the ones who will be participating in this, right? And particularly in this economic sort of transformation. Who has ever heard the term XR? Anybody? Yeah, so it's extended reality, and that's kind of becoming more of the industry name for virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, blended reality is extended reality. So when you see XR, that is what that sort of attains to. How about AI? Machine learning, yes, artificial intelligence. I think that's going to be huge. So we're going to talk about some of these as well as 3D print and what we think they mean as we kind of go forward. Our founders were firmly based in this. We have to innovate. If we don't innovate, if we don't take risks, we don't improve. Who here agrees with that with our students? How about with our instruction? Don't we? Yes, we have to take more risks. And I think that's part of this. How do we unstandardize our educational system? I think we have to take a lot more risks, right, to do that, to truly innovate. And if we don't, we're going to get left out in this next industrial revolution. Has anybody heard of this, the fourth industrial revolution? Anybody read Klaus Schwab's book? If you haven't, if you take away nothing from this discussion, go and at least explore this. So Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum and wrote this book in 2016, I think, called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is really about how we're moving towards these cyber-physical systems, right? When we think about some of those cyber-physical systems, like people you talk to on your phone and on your computer and on a speaker in your house, right? Like Alexa and Siri and Cortana, et cetera, right? Are all cyber-physical systems, self-driving cars, et cetera. This wave is coming so fast, and it's going to change so many different economic sort of components that I don't think we're really prepared for it. One of those big changes will also be 3D printing. Do you guys know that we're 3D printing now, manufacturing in 3D printing? Yeah. Right now, we can manufacture locally in the US on 3D printers, in plastics anyways, 55,000 parts or less of a single object, cheaper than you can have that done overseas. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Local manufacturing will come back, but it's not going to look like what traditional manufacturing is. It's going to look like warehouses full of 3D printers, right, with different sort of capabilities. So this whole approach is going to require lots of change. It's going to impact so many different things between all those different technologies. One of the reasons why we're so focused on STEAM, obviously it's part of our business, right, at HP, but also because it's where the job growth is coming as well. And the amount of jobs that are growing here, latest BLS statistics in 2016 showed that we think there's going to be about 3.5 million jobs that will go unfulfilled in 2024 because we're not graduating enough students with the STEM backgrounds to fulfill these jobs. as we went back and started doing some work with some folks at Burning Glass, we think it's closer to like 5 million jobs. It's growing much faster than we're even predicting. Those STEM jobs, they pay well, right? They're exciting. There's amazing sort of creative things that we do when we choose this sort of approach in an interest level, but we just aren't gravitating towards enough students there. There's a lot of gaps. A lot of those are gender gaps, particularly in computer sciences. We have a unique sort of challenge in the US with gender gap. We don't get enough girls to go into computer sciences compared to the rest of the industrialized world. And something is happening around 5th or 6th grade that socially, it's not right for our girls to go into STEM-oriented careers then. This becomes a boys' world, right? Who here has ever been in an engineering class in a college or university in the last 5 years? It's a male world, isn't it? It's kind of frightening. And in computer science in a very similar way. So we're looking at how do we attract girls as well as students from generational poverty into these areas, right? That's another area that gets missed. And of these 3.5 to 5 million jobs that we think are going to go unfulfilled in the next 5 years or so, we could make that up if we can attract these groups within our current society into these areas, right? We could easily make up that challenge or gap. If we don't, we're either going to automate more because those jobs don't need to get done, or we're going to hire overseas or outsource that level of work, right? So our approach is, hey, how can we do this maybe better? So those are kind of key challenges. We also see challenges with our students and their expectations. They're going to change dramatically, right? I think you're probably seeing that already. Do students want to sit in a lecture? No. You want to sit here and listen to me? No. You want to hear about some great stuff, right? But you have to listen to me to get there. But learning by doing, creating, really thinking through and solving complex problems is the exciting part of learning, right? I think Dr. Furness did a great job of why VR sort of fits in this space so well. How do we drive this, we think, is really, really important in creating these experiences that we remember forever. Who here can remember at least one teacher that made a huge impact on your life? Can you remember exact experiences that you had with that teacher? I can, right? I had Mr. Warren was my science teacher in Elk Grove, California, and I just moved back to my hometown. I'd been away for 35 years, just moved back. And the science wing of the high school is now named after Mr. Warren. He has since passed, but I can remember him giving us the opportunity to do science in the classroom. We didn't lecture about it. We did science in the classroom. That's what made it so interesting, right? He even let 2 idiotic 16 and 17-year-olds make alcohol as a alternative fuel source in his classroom, right? So I'll remember Mr. Warren forever, right? Absolutely. So this is the kind of thing that hopefully we're creating with our students, and we think these new technologies allow that.
What is a trilithon?
I have no idea.
What's the hydrologic cycle? What's school like in rural Afghanistan?
I don't know.
What does the nebula NGC 6543 look like?
I don't know.
How do you scan an object in 3D?
Is that even a question?
Oh, that's what a trilithon is. This is amazing.
You're like in it.
It's, oh my gosh, it's like nothing I've ever done or seen before.
Let's go inside the turtle.
Okay, so there's water, there's a mountain.
You know, you can read about something, but you can't actually know how it feels until you experience it.
This is the turtle I invented. You can build anything what's in your imagination.
The UN video, it's like a new level of learning, and it really helps to put yourself in their shoes.
And you're there with them, experiencing what they're doing and feeling their emotions.
It looks like a big dragon. And actually, I never thought of a dragon with horns. It gave me a new perspective of how things I don't know look. This is like next level cool.
Instead of just seeing one perspective, there are a bunch. I didn't even know this existed.
I love that statement from Chris Stevie from Harvard, right? A change of perspective is worth 80 IQ points. I think most of us in our current political charged world are operating on about 50 IQ points right now. We need this extra perspective, don't we, right now? And it's one of the things that I love about VR. Until you experience it, you can't explain it, right? Once you go into this world and your brain thinks you're somewhere else and you get to explore and create and do those things, you can't grasp it. But boy, does it give you a different perspective, give you an alternative view. Maybe you went in with a certain belief, and now once you've experienced this, you have a whole different set of understanding, right? We think that's some of the power behind this. Some of the next generation technologies, like immersive computing, this new VR portable sort of high-end backpack solutions, 3D printing, allows us to think through the whole design sort of cycle, right? From I have this idea, hey, maybe I want to redesign, we were talking earlier, maybe I want to redesign this clicker that I have in my hand. And so I scan it in with a 3D scanner, I give it to my students to solve a problem. Who here that you know would have trouble using this? Maybe it's your 90-year-old grandmother, maybe it's your 4-year-old brother, right? Maybe they have arthritis, maybe they have a disability. How would you rethink this and then go redesign it and then 3D print it and come back with why you did what you did? Is that a pretty good model for learning, right? Absolutely, right? Particularly this problem-solving sort of approach. We love this. And these new technologies are what they can do. We'll talk about some of these a little deeper. So if you haven't seen the Sprout Pro, I think we do have one out in the expo area, but it's a 2-screen device, right? But one screen is down on the table that you can interact with and touch, has a 3D scanner. The object on the right-hand side is actually the next generation of this, which is just an arm that can mount onto the monitor. And as long as you have a higher performance workstation, now you can do a lot of that 3D scanning right off a traditional device. And the way that it works, you'll see him actually pull that up, right, where he's got the object in his hand and twisting the object underneath the scanner. It's scanning the object in and pulling his hands out of that image. Is that kind of wild, right? How this does, it stitches this all together. And so now I can take my 3-dimensional world objects, real world objects, bring them into a virtual world, redesign them, rethink them, right? So the creativity level is really, really high in what we can do with this. He's done some amazing things here where he's building a video game, right? Using real world objects is kind of that core to this. Give you an idea, anybody have an idea what like that camera would cost? What do you think it costs? It's under $600 now, right? So costs are coming dramatically down. If we were going to deploy this 6 years ago, this would have been $4,000 or $5,000, right? So the costs are driving down dramatically and allows us to start to integrate this into instructional levels at a really early grade level. I think this is kind of a cool thing to have inside of a makerspace, right? If you're rethinking your libraries, this immersive 3D sort of scanning capabilities. This is kind of cool. times and it still makes me smile when I watch that, right? So what I love about this, right, is it helps you kind of conceptualize, and I love showing this to students because it helps them understand what AI is really about, right? We can give the computer certain aspects or ideas about what it can do and then incentivize it to solve this problem for us and then turn it loose, right? And then here's what it does, right? It comes up with new ways to solve for those problems, and it greatly improves speeds, right, in most cases. We think we're going to see AI integrated in almost everything. Any idea where you could see AI integrate, for example, into, say, computer-aided drafting? Anybody have any idea? Maybe you're an engineer. How could AI be integrated there? What if you were tasked to go build a product, right? Maybe it's a bridge, maybe it's a flange, whatever, right? And so you have to go with your knowledge and understanding to go build that, right, and design it based on, you know, what sort of criteria was given you. Maybe it's because of cost or because of strength or whatever you're trying to gain out of this particular design. Well, what if you could do that same thing, do that front end work of, hey, here's all the different aspects that I want to take into consideration for what I'm going to go build with this bridge or design or build with this part that I'm going to create, and allow the computer to go build it first. And then you tell it, the AI, I want you to build it for lowest cost. And then I want you to build it for highest strength with these two different types of manufacturing methods, 3D printing or you know, a CNC machining, right? And so now you have different designs that you can take back to judge yourself as the human in this, right? To think through this, but you don't have to do a lot of that kind of grunt level work, right? You can give it the aspects, here's what we're trying to accomplish, and allow the AI to sort of drive that. Is that kind of cool? So we think you're gonna see lots of these types of uses. Any ideas where you might see this in curriculum? You guys ever heard of Discovery Education? Discovery right now is working on something where they're going to use AI to take all that they know about the writers of the Declaration of Independence. Who's the writers of the Declaration? Jefferson, I heard, right? Adams, Franklin, right? Three kind of core writers of that. Their idea was, we know a lot about these folks, lots of letters, lots of correspondence, how they thought. So they're pulling all these if-when scenarios together into an AI, and they're going to create a curriculum that will allow students to have a discussion panel with Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin and John Adams and ask them questions, right? And then get back answers based on what we know about them at this point. Would that be a pretty interesting thing to do here? I would like to talk to Ben Franklin. No, I would, right? Or Thomas Jefferson, and ask him, so how did you deal with all men are created equal while you held slaves, right? Kind of tough, right? There's going to be tons of uses for this. We think it's going to be just kind of crazy. Another area that we're seeing lots of interest in, I'll tell you why this interests me, esports. Who here has heard of esports or participates, or are you starting to do scholastic sports through esports? Anybody? No, not yet? High ed is going crazy in this right now. It is the fastest growing scholarship sport in the US and Asia right now. Give you an example, we talked with Grandview University out of Iowa, and from their provost office, they had an idea about 3 years ago. This esports thing seems to be something. They did a little exploration. There was about 50 colleges kind of involved at that point. They started a team with 7 athletes, and it went so crazy and so good. The very next year, this school year that we're in right now, they have 36 scholarship athletes in a 1,700 student liberal arts college. They will go up to 100 students this next year. Scholarship students doing esports at a 1,700 of a liberal arts college. It's growing just huge. This is Robert Morris University. It was featured on Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. If you haven't seen this is a cool one to go see. It's out on YouTube. Kind of talks about how huge this is. Esports arenas are popping up all over the place. The Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, a third of the floor space is now devoted to esports arena. A huge one built in Irvine, California. The owner of the Texas Rangers just built a huge one for UT Arlington. It's unbelievable. More males between 18 and 35 now watch esports than they do baseball or hockey. It's kind of crazy. So who here ever thought if you had a child who spends a lot of time playing games that they would ever have an opportunity at a scholarship? Right? No, right? Absolutely. The other thing that we really like about this is that the majority of the courses of study that these students end up taking revolve around computer science. Like 68 to 70% of them are focused on computer science. So we love this as a way to hit students at the earliest grade levels using gaming as kind of this component, but then they end up going on courses of study in areas where there's going to be lots of opportunity for them, right? And they can explore all sorts of different ways. So it is kind of cool. One of the other areas that we're looking at, particularly in like a maker environment, and higher ed is going crazy in this right now, is what they're calling the campus foundry. See the printer in the center there printing out those large posters? This uses a technology called page-wide print head. So the print head is like as wide as the pages. So you can print at this amazing sort of speed. In fact, the speed isn't dictated by the print head, it's by how fast the gears can turn the paper through, so you can throw the ink on it. And what that allowed us to do on the far right is to take that same technology into 3D printing. And so we have a new technology that just released a little under 2 years ago called Jet Fusion, where we print in powders. It's plastic powders. And so you lay down this layer of plastic powder, and then you layer over another arm dropping in detailing and fusing agents, and another arm goes over laying down energy or heat, and it fuses together. We can fuse together plastic parts at like 96% of the same strength level that you can with injection molding. So what it allows us to do is print 10 times faster than any existing technology at lower cost, and that's where we can get to that 55,000 parts or less in 3D printing. So 2 years ago, we had none of these printers in market. We are now the #1 3D print maker in the world. This will be our biggest business at HP within 10 years. Bigger than PCs, bigger than printers. We're the biggest printer manufacturer and the biggest PC manufacturer in the world. This will be bigger than both of those in 10 years. We believe $2 trillion of current manufacturing will come back to the US in the next 10 years, but it's going to be in 3D printing, right? It's kind of wild. This other sort of object here is a Indigo digital press. This thing is about the size of all three of these rooms that we had here for the initial kickoff. It's huge in its scope, but it can print at amazing speeds. It can print almost anything that you want. Anybody ever order a book on Amazon? Do you know that 1 out of 12 books don't exist when you hit order? This thing prints them. And so it prints your book out, and then it gets shipped off to you. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to print a book off, for example, here, but now no inventory. Is that kind of wild? Yeah, right? It allows us to kind of rethink how we do things. 3D printing from prototyping to actual manufacturing is unbelievably quick. We can prototype, look at a design, go, oh my God, we don't like this, we want to change something, change it, on the fly, print out another prototype. Once you say it's good, I can go right into production almost immediately, right from those same sort of printers. So kind of crazy where that is, and expanding. So bioprinters right now. So we've been working with the CDC to help speed up testing on antibiotics. And so we can speed up that process now about 10x of what it takes to develop a new antibiotic and test it out of how well it goes. Metals will be printing in that same process, that same powdered metals fused together and then laser sintered together will be coming in 2 years. In fact, Volkswagen has actually agreed to participate in the first sort of component of this. And what they want to do is they want to have these 3D printers attached in a manufacturing way, attached to their traditional manufacturing plants. Any idea why they would want that? What was that?
Parts on demand.
Parts on demand, absolutely, right? Do you know most of the parts, they're created all over the place, and it's a just-in-time sort of build process that's really challenging, right? Logistically, really, really challenging. What if all your parts are right there? Anybody here ever had a recall on your vehicle? And you had to come in, right, and get a part redone? So what happens if you find out about this defective sort of issue? You're gonna have to do a recall on anything that's been manufactured, but you manufacture the parts right there, but then in the next run that you're making to those parts, it's automatically fixed, right? You can resolve for those things incredibly quick, right? So cool kind of stuff coming. If I was 14 years old, I would be all in on 3D printing. To me, it's one of the most interesting sort of places. VR, we absolutely get it. which one augmented to virtual, blended, the use cases we think are huge. This object you see on the left, they actually have out here too. It's a VR backpack. I know you've seen this. That is a high-performance design-level workstation that sits on the desk in a stand, and I can do my design-level work and then immediately pull it off, put it on a backpack that's got battery packs on it, and now I'm mobile in my environment, right? With the new Windows mixed reality headsets, I can have a space the size of a football field in a VR space. So I could design a building, I could look at an airplane, right, in full size and walk around it and experience it that full size. It gives us a whole different way to do things. Training is another sort of aspect. We're actually, we're seeing folks that in New Zealand who have developed a haptics fire hose. So for first responders, teaching them in a virtual reality way, how does that feel? And you actually get pushback from the hose when you're holding this in this VR environment, right? It's kind of wild. What about students in career and technical ed learning how to weld? Would it be kind of cool to be able to put a virtual torch and hot molten metal in their hands before you ever put the real ones there? Absolutely. How about in the middle? How about teaching and training with virtual students instead of real ones? I love this one. This is a software called Immersive. That we're seeing starting to be deployed really heavily in higher ed right now, where you can put students and teachers in situations, right, and cause a disruption in the classroom, and how does that teacher deal with that disruption? These situational learning sort of components are where we see VR really have a great value. You can put folks in a dangerous or very risky sort of situation that's not real, but it feels real, right? And you can stop and do a teachable moment in the middle and pick right back off where you left off. Can you do that inside of your traditional classroom? No, right? So it's always learning after the fact, not in the middle of it, and trying different strategies and approaches, right? So it's one of the ways we really like VR technology, and this ability to have no sort of tethers we think is really kind of cool, right? It's just going to continue to get better and better. The reason we like this backpack approach is it puts the developmental sort of capabilities in that student's hand at a virtual level, right? So I can do developmental work while I'm in this virtual environment, which is really kind of cool. Who here wished someone had done a study to start to think through where should we be thinking about all these different technologies and where they could be applied? Anybody interested in this? We were really interested in it. In fact, we gave EDUCAUSE actually a bunch of money and a bunch of equipment to go out and start to do some clinical research. In fact, this research, Learning in 3 Dimensions, will be released this next week. This link is actually live with the report, and so if anybody's interested in this, we'll make sure we get this to Micro K-12 and they'll share it with you all. But this is a 130-page report on 7 different colleges and universities that did this level of research. And so they came back with this great report on where do these different sort of technologies have an idealized fit, where and how, right? Really kind of cool stuff and kind of groundbreaking stuff. So it's a great place if you're starting to struggle with this, going, where would I apply this? This is a great sort of set of research to start that process. Jobs are going to change dramatically, and it's a touchy situation, right? Politically, it's a touchy situation. I'm cautiously warning our educational institutions that if there are skills that can be done better and cheaper through automation, they will happen, right? It's going to happen. You can't stop that from happening. It's going to happen. So I think we have to do a much better job of thinking through, particularly in our career and technical ed programs, where we start to invest, right? And if there's certain skills of certain jobs that can be done automated, well then what do we do with the rest of the time that those workers would be doing that job, right? We can give them the ability to go do something higher level as well, right? So this level that doesn't require a whole lot of skill can be done via automation. It's going to open up a ton of jobs. So additive 3D printing, which is this printing in powders and building from the ground up sort of manufacturing, we're going to see huge amounts of design for chemists, Right now at HP, we cannot hire enough chemists. There are not enough chemists coming out of colleges and universities to fit our demand only, right? Because we're inventing all these new materials and how we print. We had a great discussion panel with some, they were 16, 17-year-olds that came from a very disadvantaged area of the Bay Area, came to Palo Alto, and we brought a panel together of 5 different folks that worked at HP. One of those young men actually works in our HP labs where we do all of our design level work and most of the research that we do. He was 23 years old. He was a chemist. His first year out of college, came to work in labs. He's the one who figured out his first year working at HP how to print in 3D color. No one had been able to get this figured out, and this young man did. He was having this discussion with students. Do you think that lit some fires with some students to have that sort of discussion? Absolutely, right? So one of the things we're looking at is, I think you have to ask more of us as vendors and vendor partners, right? Where can we help out? If it's to come in and have these sorts of discussions with students, demand that of us, okay? You'll be able to find folks who would love to come do this. I do it all the time. So if that would be helpful inside of your schools, please leverage folks like myself to help that out. On XR and AI, going to be huge demands for developers. One of the largest group of jobs that are going unfulfilled right now, if you go search Indeed, probably the best job search tool out right now. Any idea what those would be? It would have to deal with maybe XR and AI. It's software developers. Like over 200,000 jobs exist right now that aren't being fulfilled on Indeed when you go do a job search under software development. And when you search for Unity and Python and Unreal and R, that's where the vast majority of them are. That's where we're developing in VR, right? It's Unity and Unreal. Python and R for AI, because that's all the data and analytics that we need to put in place, right? The amount of data that it takes, for example, to do that discovery education discussion panel with our founding fathers takes huge amounts of data. And so we need mathematicians and data analytics to really drive all of that. So huge job growth. How about ethics? We actually have, I think, 35 ethics majors at HP in our labs. Any idea why? What was that? AI, yes, right? God, what is like half science fiction in the world about AI, right? Going rogue, etc. What about printing? Have we heard a bunch of stuff in the news right now of things being printed? Weapons, guns, etc., right? How do you deal with this? Was one of the reasons we were ready for our technology to release about 5 years ago. We had huge challenges ethically. How do we control this? So we figured out ways to do that, and then we made this really aimed at high level. These are $250,000 sort of machines that would really be aimed at a place where most people would not be able to gain access to them. And we have DRM on your 3D printed objects, just like you do on music or videos or anything else you create, right? So there's ways to kind of solve that. So ethics design, lots and lots of opportunity. Another area, and this is a free tool, I always like to share this, we don't get enough press wrapped around this. We have millions of users in this right now, but it's a program we developed out of our philanthropic group called HP Life. Anybody ever heard of this or seen this? It's cool situational learning components for skills around, if I had an idea for a product, for a solution, for a service, and I wanted to take that through the whole design level thinking process, all the way through how would I go and build this and operationalize it? How would I market it? How would I fund it? It's all those skills that I would take through this whole entire process. The National Association for Community Colleges just picked this up as a foundational set of curriculum for this entrepreneurial sort of skill set. It's a great tool set. Please use this. It's life-global.org. Anyone can use it. It's a fantastic tool. I've taken many of these modules and they're really terrific. So a huge set of these, right, from design thinking, strategic planning, through finance, marketing, operations, and communication. It really is some great sort of tools. And the last thing before we go Q&A, you want to dive deeper and more. Lots of places to go do that. Any way that I can help would love that as well. We'll make sure you guys get this deck. We'll get this off to Micro K-12 so you guys will have access to that. One of the things that I do is we curate OER for both Microsoft and Google environments. And so in the free resources are where we populate that information, right? So what is the best virtual graphing calculator, right? And maybe there's 2 or 3 different choices. You can go take a look at those, right? So before you go out and buy curriculum or learning tools or whatnot, it's a great resource to go kind of check out. Yeah. Questions? Was this interesting? Yes. Was it worth 40 minutes of your time, I hope? Good. I sure hope so. My name again is Mike Belcher, mike.belcher@hp.com. Happy to help any way that we can. If we can come out, help inside of your schools with faculty or with students to help them